Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In today's video, we're talking about a team that made some decently big moves, I guess you could say, this NBA offseason. They certainly made moves, you can't deny that, as they made a trade for Landry Shamet, a trade for Bruce Brown, and they signed Jeff Green. I don't think I'm forgetting any there. So yeah, if you haven't figured it out yet, which you probably should have because it's in the title, I'm talking about the Brooklyn Nets. I am a bit of a fan of what the Nets have done this offseason. I think that they got some nice complementary players for their stars, but there's a logjam in the backcourt now. But before we get too far into it, I'm going to remind you to leave a like and subscribe. I've been appreciating all the support that I've gotten lately, and I really hope to see that continue. Without further ado, let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets. So, I would say the biggest move that they made this offseason was trading the 19th pick in exchange for Landry Shamet. Shamet is a three-point shooter. That's about it at this point in his career, but he's a smart player, makes good decisions on defense, is capable in rotations, and doesn't exactly screw up on the defensive end of the floor, which is important. And on offense, he can really shoot it. He's a bit inconsistent for my liking, and he needs to improve on that consistency. But when he's on, he's on. This is a guy that can go for 20-plus point games once he gets hot from three. You can see him have games where he hits 5 or 6 three-pointers, which is super valuable to an NBA team. When he's on his game, he's one of the best three-point shooters in the whole league, and that is super valuable to a team that has guys that are going to create open looks for their teammates. Guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and even Karis LeVert and Spencer Dinwiddie are going to create some good looks for their teammates. So I think that the Landry Shamet trade was an excellent move for the Nets, and only giving up the 19th pick, I think it's solid. They're a team that's looking to win now, obviously, since they have guys like Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. When you have two superstars of that caliber, you are looking to win the championship right now. And they didn't have time to wait for a prospect to develop. I think Saddiq Bey would have been an excellent fit for them, but you'd rather take a shot at the sure thing, the guy you've seen play at the NBA level, and that is Landry Shamet. He has playoff experience. He played super well for the Clippers 2 seasons ago when they were in that playoff series against the Warriors where they took 2 games off of the Golden State Warriors, and people forget Kevin Durant was healthy for that series, and that was before they acquired Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. So that Clippers team, led by Patrick Beverley and Montrezl Harrell, and who else is even on that team at this point? Landry Shamet, of course. Zubats is on that team. Oh, Lou Williams, of course. Like, that team... Oh, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Danilo Gallinari, of course, the guys they traded for Paul George. That group took the Warriors to 6 games, and so that's a big part of why people thought the Lakers were going to be championship favorites in this upcoming season. And that's why Landry Shamet had high value and was worth getting the 19th pick for. He proved in that series that he can really ball. Then in the playoffs last year, he actually fell out of the rotation because he was so inconsistent. But if he can nail down that consistency and shoot the 3 ball at the height of his skills, the way he's capable of shooting it night in and night out, that is where his value comes from. The other big trade that they made, I guess it's not really a big trade, but the other trade they made was swapping out Zanin Musa, I hope I said his name right, and a future second-round pick in exchange for Bruce Brown. Bruce Brown is definitely a more NBA rotation-ready player than Zanin Musa. He's a very capable role player, plays good defense, can guard 1 through 3, which is super valuable. Defensive versatility and switchability is super important at the NBA level. He can actually shoot the ball at a decent clip from the 3-point line, which, as we talked about with Shamet, the spacing is very important to a team that has Kevin Durant, that has Kyrie Irving. And especially with his defensive acumen, that's where Bruce Brown's value comes from. and they really didn't have to give up too much to get him. Musa is a guy who's shown talent, uh, can score the ball pretty well, but at this point needs to needs to iron out his decision making, become more consistent, and improve on defense. And to swap that out, a project type player in exchange for a guy that can help you now and be part of a rotation now, is a good move and good business from a team like the Nets that wants to be a championship contender. So I rate that move very highly for them, and I think that it was a good choice. After that, we have the Jeff Green signing. Jeff Green was a player that I was very high on going into this offseason. I thought that whichever team got him was going to get a super versatile player that can guard multiple positions, can shoot the three-point shot at a good clip, and can play some small ball center, which, as we've seen in the playoffs the last couple of years, the league is starting to move more and more in that direction of having small ball centers on the roster that can perform for you. So I think that this was a good move for the Nets. They got him on a fairly cheap deal, so it's not hurting their cap in any sort of way. He's going to be a valuable rotation piece for this team in the front court. And I really, really like this signing. It might make Taurean Prince expendable to a point where we could see him get traded to free up some more cap space so they can bring in another veteran that can help them win now. But even if that doesn't happen, Jeff Green is going to be a really nice contributor for this team in the playoffs. We saw how valuable he was to the Houston Rockets in this past postseason. I would certainly argue that he was their third most important. Well, no. He was very important to their team. You can't say he was more important than PJ Tucker or even Robert Covington or Eric Gordon. But he made a big impact for the Rockets in the minutes he got, and I think that this was a nice move for the Nets. Overall, they did a nice job of finding the type of player that they need to surround their superstars with in order to help them to succeed. I think that the Nets got better in this offseason. And no, they didn't make the big trade to get the third star yet. Maybe it'll happen with the James Harden stuff. But it hasn't happened yet, so I get Nets fans might be a little displeasured at that. You might have thought going into this you were going to get Bradley Beal or Drew Holiday or Victor Oladipo, and it hasn't happened. But I still think that you did a good job of bettering your roster, and that is super important. At this point, I don't think that this team is better than Milwaukee. I don't think that they're better than Philadelphia, and I don't think that they are better than Miami. I think those three teams are the clear top three in the Eastern Conference at this point. But Brooklyn is very, very talented, and I don't think that they're far enough behind those top three teams that there's no way they could catch back up. If we see a fully healthy Kevin Durant come out and perform at the peak of his abilities, then this team still has that championship ceiling, and obviously that's what they're going to be striving for. There's still contracts on this team, there's still valuable young players, so we still could see that trade happen. And while I don't think that it would necessarily make them an overwhelming title favorite, adding another star would do nothing but boost this team and continue to make them better. Overall, I think they should really try to hang on to Karis LeVert unless they're trading for James Harden or Bradley Beal. If you're trading for a player in the next tier, like Victor Oladipo or someone like that, then I would prefer to see them hang on to LeVert and package Spencer Dinwiddie and Jared Allen and whatever else they need to. Because I'm a really big believer in LeVert, and I think he ends up being an all-star level player. But if that deal does come along where they can acquire James Harden or Bradley Beal, it's a no-brainer. You got to make that happen. Those two guys are top 25 players in Bradley Beal's case, or top 10 players in James Harden's case. So it's a no-brainer. You have to pull the trigger if that opportunity comes along. Overall, I like what this team has done. I think they've made themselves better. Going into the offseason, I thought that there was a chance that they could have been like a 6th seed in the East, but I think that with Boston losing Gordon Hayward, with Toronto losing Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol, the Nets have hopped over those two teams in my mind, and it's very possible that we could see Kevin Durant come back, be fully healthy, and then this team will look super, super scary and establish themselves as a top 3 team in the NBA. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with me that the Nets made great moves, or are you against these moves from the Nets and think that they should have done something else? Let me know. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I think that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.